Okay, I gotta get... Okay, go ahead. You are being recorded. Go ahead. Lincoln Hall.
Wait a minute. Where did we end up?
Lincoln Hall. Lincoln Hall. Lincoln Hall.
Okay.
Okay.
1942, I was sentenced to Lincoln Hall, the correctional facilities for Catholic boys. Catholic boys.
Right.
It didn't change the way after that. Then they sent wayward kids there. But when I went there, it was for Catholic boys, and it was run by the brothers.
Okay.
Who were not quite priests, but close to it. All right?
All right. What was the facility? What was the building like?
They were all cottages.
Oh, okay.
There were maybe 15 or 20 kids to a cottage. And there were maybe 12 cottages. Okay. A school and a mess hall, a gym. It was like a vacation resort, really. You had some correctional problems. I've had them all my life. Anyway, during the course of while I was there, I ran away and I burglarized a couple of houses. I ran away with a kid named Petey, and another kid was going to go, but he couldn't get out of his dormitory. Anyway, we burglarized this house and we found $1,500. And we took the train down to New York and ended up in Coney Island. This is really funny. Okay. We went into a store and we each bought the same clothes. Dungarees, polo shirts, sneakers. We looked like twins, which was a real big mistake. Anyway, about 1 o'clock in the morning, the cops asked us what we were doing, and Petey got a little shook up and told them we ran away from Lincoln Hall. So we were immediately locked up again in Coney Island. And the funny part about it is the cop that was interviewing me told me that I was a disgrace to the name. And then I found out his name was McLaughlin. So he kind of took offense to what I said and corrected me physically. Oh. So that it showed.
So you were bleeding?
Oh yeah, I was beat up.
Oh wow.
And then I went back to Lincoln Hall. And they had the state troopers there because of the burglaries. And I mouthed off at him too, so he got in a few licks. Anyway, I ended up in Putnam County Jail to recuperate. And then when I did recuperate, I was sent to Warwick, which was a reform school. This was a tough place. You had to fight for everything. Needless to say, it was mostly black. Because at that time, they were the easiest ones to send away. And it was a rough time. Anyway, while I was there, they had cottages there with maybe up to 30 kids in a cottage. And they were cared for by couples. And there's one guy in a cottage, not the one I was in, whipped this kid for something. Anyway, the kid went up to his apartment and got a shotgun and blew his ass away. Then it come to find out that a lot of them quit because the kids were beating them up. These were street tough kids, and they didn't take kindly to that. You'll do what I tell you to do. Right. Well, I didn't either, but anyway, so I stayed there probably till I was 14, and then I was sent to a foster home in Baisley Park. It's on Lefferts Boulevard by John Adams High School. And the first day of school, I walked through the school and I disappeared. So I was living by myself. From then, I got arrested a couple of times, but I always managed to elude
can I ask you
the authorities.
Let me ask you one question. When you were on the streets, how did you survive?
I had a furnished room for $7 a week.
So
I stole it. I'd walk into a store and just go to the cash register, take the money and walk out and tell them if I had a problem, I'd be back. I was just...
You were surviving.
If I was in my right senses, I'd have scared myself. I was just off the wall out of it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the last time I got arrested, I was up in my room with a girl. Her name was Joan. I remember her. I liked her. And the cops came up. I went out the window and I was hanging on the edge of the roof. And the wind came along and blew my coat up. And the shadow on the roof told them where I was. Anyway, they got me. And that's when I went to Long Island City Jail. I was arrested for stealing a top coat. Some kid said I stole it. The same kid that loaned me the coat to go out on a date. Anyway, they said I was going to stay there till I was 16, and then I would be treated as a youthful offender, which is what they did in New York at the time. Which means they could sentence you as an adult, but 1 year, 2, 5, 10, 30, 1 year to life even. Little black kid, nice kid in the world, was outside the store club selling papers. Some drunk came out and he asked the kid asked him to buy a paper, and he hit the kid with his cane, and the kid shoved him and he fell down and died, and the kid got 1 to life.
Wow.
That's how they treated the kids, especially the black kids.
Right.
Anyway, I ended up, while I was there, they brought 3 kids in, teenagers, 2 17-year-olds and an 18-year-old. And they were bragging about raping a girl. And I told them to shut up, and the kid told me to go fuck myself. So what he didn't know was you could open the jail cells with a card or a shoelace. That's how old the jail was. The jail was shut down about a year after I left it.
Oh.
As being inadequate. Anyway, I went into the cells and I beat them up pretty bad. And I was rearrested for felonious assault. Didn't matter that I was 15.
Right.
Right. So when I finally went to jail, I went to court. And there was some guy there that was supposed to be my lawyer, but that was nil. Anyway, I was sentenced to 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
And I went up to Sing Sing where I was they figured out which jail you had to go to. And I went to Elmira. It was considered a reformatory big time, but it was a prison. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I met the kid that was doing life. I met a bunch of them that were doing life. That's when the street gangs were prevalent in Harlem. And they get these kids for cutting people up, killing people, and all they did was life. All these kids.
Oh, what year was that? What year?
I got arrested in the middle of 1945, and I was held till 46. And in January 1946, I ended up in Elmira.
Oh, okay.
I stayed there till 51 or almost 52.
So, how old were you then? Let's see.
I was 16 when I finally went to Elmira.
Okay. And you were about 22 when you got out. You were about 22 when you got out?
Almost 22.
Almost 22.
Right.
Okay.
It amounted to almost 7 years.
Would you say that that was the worst time of your life, or what?
Well, like any other situation that you would get into when you were leading my kind of life, there were bad times and there were good times. I've often said I could have made it in a concentration camp. I just acclimated myself to the situation, did what I could to get, and just took it in stride with stuff that I couldn't do anything about.
Mm-hmm. What kind of work did you do there?
I worked in a print shop when I wasn't in solitary.
And you were in solitary a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I didn't really get with the program. I remember I was probably 17 or 18, probably 18, and right before my birthday, and I think I broke some guard's jaw. This is a total misunderstanding on their part.
I understand.
Yeah, well, anyway, they decided to beat me up, so I fought back as long as I could.
Yeah.
And two of them got really screwed up, and I got screwed up. Yeah. So anyway, I was sentenced to solitary confinement, and it was Christmas Eve. And this guy that was just back from the war, just got out of the army, his name was O'Leary. I was the only one in there. It was a short cell block, 6 cells, and an iron door that was blank on the front, so you could just totally out of touch with the world. Anyway, he came in, and he put a shot glass of booze on his cell, you know, the iron bar that holds this, and a lit cigarette. And then he brought in a stool and he sat down and he says, Mac, I'm going to tell you something. He says, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to lose. He says, they're talking about sending you to Dannemora, which was one of the toughest places there. And they sent most of the criminally insane there. The guys that were nuts. Mm-hmm. And he says, if they get you up there, they got you for life. He says, your sentence says 1 to 10, but basically it's 1 to whenever. So you got to straighten out.
Yeah.
And that's when I had my dark moment.
Right.
I just, you know.
Right.
I just... I did. I talked to God, and I changed. Okay. When I got out of solitary, I went before the board, And Captain Hogan was in charge. So I just had a conversation with him and I said, I need a job where I can be by myself. I said, I really want to work this out so I can get out of here. So they put me to work in the kitchen. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make the coffee for the whole population.
Right.
And my job was just to clean the urns.
Excuse me.
You could get 5 people in each one of these urns. That's how big they were.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I got so strong.
Yeah.
Cleaning them.
Yeah.
And I was in there for 2 years. And I turned 21. And they said, come back in 6 months. The parole board.
Okay.
I was a little upset with that, but anyway, I went back and they took me out of population and they put me back in the kitchen. Just for Hogan, for your own good.
For your own good? Okay.
Anyway, and the next time I went before the parole board, I was granted parole.
Okay, we're going to stop.
It was late 51, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, late 51. We're going to stop there. We're going to stop.
Okay.
So I can load this. Thank you.